Hey, morning. Hello, we are Right So Fred. This is the Fred's podcast. We're delighted to be joined by Hi-Rez.
Exactly.
From the US. Yeah. How are you, man? Good?
I'm good. I'm good. How you guys doing?
We're all right.
We're not bad. Yeah, we're all right. We were just having a cup of tea and got all the times wrong, and as we always do.
Yeah, exactly.
As we always do. But your text actually reminded me, so that's very, very good.
Are you in Fort Lauderdale now?
I'm in Orlando right now, near Disney and all the tourists and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm from Fort Lauderdale area, though. Yeah.
But you were born in the Bronx, weren't you?
Yeah. I was born and lived born in Manhattan and lived in the Bronx for some of my childhood, and then I moved to Fort Lauderdale. Then I moved to LA for a while to kind of get my business on track, which was super helpful. And then you already know kind of how Hollywood goes, and it's not for me. I'm an East Coast guy. I'm a New York guy. I'm a Florida guy. And I moved back, and now doing the whole life thing, the wife thing, the children thing very soon, God willing. So that's the plan.
Oh wow!
Oh, good. Okay, man. So is your wife pregnant, or you?
No. So this is the plan. I'm getting married in February, and God willing, I mean we're ready to go right away. So thank God I'm in a position where it's the timing feels good. So
good. Oh, good. Congratulations, man. That's cool.
Is she allowed to call you Jesse?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think, I've known her since I'm 13 years old. So,
oh my God.
And we've been dating since 18, kind of on and off. And then we started, obviously, she probably took it a lot more serious than I did a lot sooner, that makes sense as women tend to do. Yeah. But, she's been ride or die for a long time. So I'm very happy to have a rock next to me for sure.
So this is childhood sweetheart stuff, isn't it?
Exactly. Which I've heard statistically lasts forever comparatively to the one in every two, whatever it is. I'm sure it's the same in Europe and stuff like that. But everyone gets divorced. It's almost like who doesn't get divorced at this time? So God forbid. But yeah, man.
Yeah, it's weird because when I was in school, I didn't know I didn't know anybody whose parents were divorced. Nobody.
Wow, see, it's a generational thing too. It's an internet thing now. It's a Western thing. It's insane.
It is insane.
Yeah, we've been trawling back through loads of your videos. Yeah, and we've got some clips to play. And there's a few things that really interest us. First of all, can we just chat about the Uber thing?
Yeah, of course, man. I want to chat about. I have a bunch of questions for you guys too after. So
okay.
Back and forth.
All right, cool. So with the Uber thing, are you a registered Uber driver, or is this how does this work?
So it started off extremely legit. It started off as legit as it can be, as you can imagine, and then it got to the point where people would find themselves in viral videos and be very mad and very angry, and people would remove me, or my girlfriend saw this, or I shouldn't be in this car. I don't know what people were doing, but I guess I was, and then we started blurring people's faces out, and then even after that, we started to have to get talent release forms. So we tried to make it as authentic. So even when we still were getting talent release forms, no one knew who I was. They never saw the videos prior. We never sent them a link ahead of time to be like, hey, this is what you're gonna do. We tried to still keep it as authentic as possible, where it's like, hey, we see someone on the street or whatever, hey, you want $100? Get in my van. No, I'm just kidding. It's like
what could possibly go?
But yeah, we tried to make it as authentic as possible. And it just got to the point where it wasn't fun to me anymore. So I stopped doing it. I was getting 20, 30, 40 million views on these videos. I was making a ton of money, and I was able to kind of throw them to my music. So my music was doing well. The streams were doing well. So it was kind of a recipe that was just not failing, but just from an artistry standpoint, it just kept getting progressively less fun, because we had to do more and more corporate shit and science shit. It just wasn't as fun. Just like everything, right? It got ruined.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? Always. So we're just gonna play a clip from the Uber thing so people know what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me know if I'm trash though. Yeah? Okay. I don't know how to get the internet though. I'm just on some old school shit. All right, here we go. For real, let me know if I'm garbage. Hey,
Hey, the doctor, he told me I could not be fixed. My teacher, they told me I would not be rich. One of them was right and one of them was wrong. You can guess which is which. Lost in this prison I built for myself. I've been wishing that someone would listen. From hell I arisen. The cell that I live in, the liquor and pills are just way too appealing. I am not willing or able to stop. Call up the cops, call up my mom. I got a problem. I am slipping. I think I need God. I'ma be sinning until I get caught in a paradox. I'm breaking out the box. Pair of Yeezys, you a pair of Crocs. Going till my face is tearing off like the anesthetic that been wearing off. First I got a little bit of head, then I got a little bit of bread, then I got a bit of respect that I go into my heart and the hard time to handle it went up to my head. I am a prodigy, I'm an anomaly. For all my problems I need a lobotomy. No one is hot as me when I be rhyming on beats to the side of me. People throw up at the thought of me. Really gotta pray for a better day. No one really give a damn what I gotta say. Lost up in this place, floating out of space. I think I really need you all to get up on my face. I'm going hard to the day I'm in my casket. It's Hi-Rez and JT on the track, yeah. Is that cool?
That's not bad for you.
You like that? You like that?
Good.
But like for real?
Yeah.
Y'all not gassing me up, right?
No, I don't mind.
If you if I ever get my music on the internet, you'll buy it, stream it, all that shit.
Totally.
Oh yeah.
I appreciate that.
That's cool, man.
One of the things I always think, actually, with this is that, and we'll refer to the very Jewish video that you do later, but the lip syncing must be really fucking tough.
You mean on a normal video?
On a video, yeah.
Oh, in general, just because of what, rapid fast and stuff?
Yeah, because it's so fast, yeah.
Yeah, like the way I grew up, I have two older brothers, and I was the son that was never heard. Essentially, I'm the last kid. I'm the youngest one. So it's like, you know, the oldest brother, it's like or the oldest sibling, it's like how a parent is like very cautious about what they do. You know, they drop the binky, whatever you call it, and they boil it. The second brother, they wipe it off of their shirt. The third kid, go play in traffic and get the fuck out of here. That was kind of my life. And I always was like kind of this high strung, always happy and excited, but I talk quick. I speak fast. I always have to feel like I had to be heard at all times. So I was always speaking fast and talking fast. And so that just always kind of made it into the raps like that. And but yeah, to answer your question, it's just natural, man. It's I almost wish I couldn't do that at times.
Because you sort of started making mixtapes and stuff when you were about 13?
Yeah. I appreciate the research you guys have done. Thank you so much. When I was about 13 years old, I put out my first record. I was recording on like a $10 or $20 microphone from Walmart with a sock on it. And I was in my brother's closet at the time. And then I came out the closet. Thanks, guys. Million views. Throw it up. Let's go. Platinum. So, so I started off at around 13 years old. And when I was about 15, I started releasing mixtapes every 3 months or 4 months on a website called datpiff.com, which was like for all the rap mixtapes at the time.
Some of the stuff.
It was like I'm talking, this was before stream. So everyone, was still selling their music. And if you weren't selling millions, then you had no other way to do anything. You had to tour. You guys know this. You had to tour. You had to sell merch. Like you couldn't do it how it is now, where you don't have to leave your house. So when I was about 15, every few months I was releasing free music, which was like the catalyst to come to my shows and the catalyst to buy merch and follow me and do all these things. And I remember it's actually, now that I look back on it, it's a lot crazier and harder what was done than it is now. I know you guys can kind of attest to that as well. Yes, absolutely. Because people had to actually download it, unzip it, put it on, plug their iPod in, pull it on there, make sure it's there. And I had hundreds of thousands. I was like, they got platinum and gold and whatever. I was like plastic. I was digital. It's like I went digital, platinum, plastic, whatever. Whatever the mixtapes is. Like the fact that I had hundreds of thousands of downloads as a 15-year-old kid, and people unzipped it and did all that shit. It's mind blowing to me. But to answer your question, I started off about 13, 14, 15, releasing free music. I signed up on YouTube when I was about 14 years old. I was one of the first people on YouTube, like not the first, but there was only thousands of creators. I actually have a screenshot on my computer still where it says I was like the number 20 trending video of all time for that month or that week or whatever, with only 13,000 views in 24 hours. Something crazy. It was like there was no creators, It was like especially white rappers at the time, and especially American white. It just kept getting more niche and specific. Now in my building, I live in an apartment building. Now you could throw a stone and hit 10 rappers.
Exactly. Because the sort of the commercial breakout was Smiling. Am I right in saying that?
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Thank you guys. Yeah. Smiling.
That's quite a happy track, isn't
it?
So
I sampled M83, which
That's
was
right.
this. I love them, man. It was this like kind of when EDM just started kind of popping off and like happy electronic started making its way to America. It was already doing well in Europe and Asia and things like that, but America kind of just started catching wind of at least my generation started catching wind of like electronic music. Yeah. And I was going through all these things, and I was just once again, I'm 15 years old, 16 years old. I didn't know that you had to clear samples at the time, which I had to learn. I learned the hard way many times. Absolutely. I still am going to figure it out. I figured it out, but I still have to figure it out for some of my 16-year-old mistakes to this day that I'm dealing with. But I heard that song, and I put out my version, and my version actually started catching up and competing with their version at the time. This was before they blew up and they had a whole campaign and a radio run. So they only had maybe a couple million sales or streams or whatever it was at the time, or views, whatever they were basing it on. And my thing started kind of catching up to it. And I remember getting like a cease and desist thing in the email. And I'm 16 years old. I don't even know what this is. I'm freaking out. I'm stressing. I'm biting my nails. I don't even have money, bro. I have maybe $1,000 to my name. And they're like, C&D. And then we ignored it. They're like, okay, here's the law. You know, we're going to sue you for X amount, every dollar you made. And I'm losing sleep. And I grew up like not well off. Like, even though, you know, the stereotypes may reign true about Judaism, I had no lawyers in my family at the time. I had no understanding of credit or anything. I didn't know what the hell was going on. You see what I'm saying? So the fact that happened, you know, but then we, you know, it ended up getting, I don't even know how it got somewhat resolved. I think I still probably have to resolve certain aspects of it because once again, you know, streaming is different now. Then a new platform pops up, and then you have publishing over here and mechanical, you know, so I don't know what was resolved and what wasn't, but I did learn a valuable lesson after sampling 10 more things that I had to start clearing after that.
When you look back, and we bought an amp, but didn't realize you needed a cabinet.
Yeah, when we were about 10 or 11 or whatever we did.
Plug the guitar in, it's not working. It's not working, mate. Go back and have a word with the guy. And he says, what do you mean you need a cabinet? We just pay for the cabinet.
Excellent. Well, I'll play a quick clip from Smiling so people know that track, because I think it's a really interesting shift from where you've come from that. So
Thank you.
If I found a way to be happy every day, if you could just see my face, y'all would see I'm smiling. The clouds are never gray. If only there was a place. If you could just see my face, y'all would see I'm smiling. Getting high, boy, it's time to break it down. Grab a mic, kill the stage, yeah, second nature now. Mama said I'd make her proud. I told her I made a vow just to wait around. In the year I'll put her in a house on the shore or on a coast or an island. And every month I'd hop on a plane to fly, yeah, and take her shopping, whatever she wants to buy, yeah. She made me who I am, I got the heart of a lion, yeah. And for that, mama, I'm gratified. Grinding harder than everybody, so please don't act surprised when you see me pass your eyes quickly as I'm passing by. Grinding, boys, trap or die, homie, I'm a mastermind. I got a smile on every day, got a taste of the good life, and I'm here to stay. I'm used to questions, so everybody ask away. Hey, it's time to get high, homie, so pass the J. If I found a way to be happy every day, if you could just see my face, y'all would see I'm smiling.
That's good. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I'm assuming you've got a lot of interest on it.
You must have done.
Commercial, man.
Yeah, it is.
And you look the part and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, did you not get the majors coming after you?
Yeah. So I actually signed to Sony like a year or two after that, and it was like a very strange kind of limbo period where sales were no longer relevant and people were pirating things again. And streams didn't exist. Spotify didn't exist yet. Right. So I'm at this weird kind of in-between window where I'm not big enough to sell 1 million records, especially when Taylor Swift and all these artists are already now. Everyone used to sell 1 million. Now they're selling 800,000, 700,000. Exactly. So I'm like, okay, so I was only selling maybe 10,000 copies of my things, which is a lot for a 16-year-old kid. But then now I'm only selling 6 or 5. Right. So, you know, I was signed to like a bad deal. Thank God it actually worked out this way. I was signed to like a 4 or 5 album deal with Sony. I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. And then they just dropped me after my first album only sold 5,000-6,000 copies. And, you know, once again, for a 16-year-old kid to generate 50 or 60K at the time, I was I couldn't even believe it, you know, and you know, it was exciting to me, but it was like this weird phenomenon, what was going on in my head, because I was being told how bad it was and how unsuccessful I was without, you know, these dinosaurs at the time, kind of, you know, recognizing that it was an industry thing happening. It was a cultural thing happening. It wasn't a Hi-Rez issue. It was like a mainstream, it was a mainstream thing way above my pay grade happening. But yeah, so I put out Smiling. Then about a couple years later, I signed with Sony. And then within a year or two, I got dropped. And then within a year or two of that, Spotify kind of came out and started blowing up in America. And then I remember seeing, I put out what I thought was a mixtape, but I realized it's like, I don't even know what these words mean anymore when you're putting it on streaming platforms and you're making money, and you compare it to what a mixtape used to be when I was handing it out outside of shows. And, you know, I just wanted $5 or $1 or just a fan or a follower or whatever. And so I put out this first mixtape, I guess, on Spotify and streaming platforms. And I remember seeing with like a few months later, I checked my PayPal and I saw like $1,000, and I was like, whoa. And I was like, because at the time, like I thought I had to, you know, tour and make merch like we talked about earlier. I thought you had to like really, you know, to me, hard work is blood, sweat, and tears. It's not necessarily, I didn't feel like I earned that in a sense. It was like, whoa, but then I did feel like I earned it because of the years and years of what I was doing. But I was just so confused because I was like, whoa, I put out some music that I recorded, you know, at my home. And then I just saw $1,000, and then I saw it again the next month, and I saw it again the next month. And I was like, whoa, because everything prior to that was just like in advance from a label that I never recouped, or like I had to go leave for 2 months and go make $10,000 or $20,000, and I didn't see my family for a few months. So it was actually, you know, on the ground, boots on the ground to make money. And or like getting screwed over in the deal or not reading paperwork properly. Like it was never really like as easy as putting out music and making money. So when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, we got something here. And then I started, I'm sure you're going to bring it up. Maybe I started doing the shit with the McDonald's rap, and I started doing all these other things. And I started getting corporate gigs and making like, you know, decent money. And then my family started taking it serious, and people around me started taking it more serious on my behalf. I always took it serious since I'm 13, obviously, as serious as a 13-year-old kid could take it. But streaming changed the game, man. And long story short, I know we you know, brought up as far as that sounding mainstream and being signed. Yeah, man, I even to this day, it's probably not in the last year. I think a lot of labels want to steer clear of me with some of the other music I've put out. But prior to that, yeah, man, I've always been contacted by big distributions and big labels. But I always knew how much more money I was able to make and how much more creative control I had just kind of being independent now. Like to some people, they're like, you know, to an ignorant mind right now, they're like, yo, why haven't you been signed? Why don't you get signed? Hey, why don't you take these? And I'm like, yo, if you saw my analytics, my back end, my merch sales, my streams, my publishing, I own my masters. If you know all that, if that meant anything to somebody, then they would understand how important that is. But to the blind eye, it's like I'm just this kid struggling, trying to figure it out, you know?
Yeah, well, the audiences are really behind the curve. I don't mean that to sound disparaging, but they don't understand. They think charts are still really, really relevant. And it's nice to have your name in the chart, of course it is, but you have to. It can, unless you're really lucky, it can cost you a fortune with pluggers and promo and everything else. You suddenly get a record happening, particularly with the amount of followers you've got on YouTube. You suddenly get a record happening there, and that's a very different animal. I mean, I know you've got to pay for a video, but you aren't having to hand over money to pluggers unnecessarily, and to record companies and to managers and that sort of stuff. So I think the game, I agree with you, the game has changed a lot. Yeah,
it's much more. It was really simple back in the day.
Yeah, I mean,
it really was. You know, there was I mean, I remember we took our demo. I mean, there's hundreds of record companies, hundreds of gigs, and it was a really simple process. You know, you made a single, then you did another single, then you made an album, then you did a tour, and it had a kind of logic to it. And now, as you say, you're much more clued up than
it's taken us a while because we're old school and we came up the old way, you know. And it was like, you know.
Yeah,
no, of course. I'm in this kind of in between, you know, mindset, because like I said, I have older siblings. I grew up listening to 90s rap. You know, I grew up listening to 80s rock and roll.
Right.
And so I'm kind of an older soul when it comes to not only creatively what I enjoy listening to, but like I said, I kind of have this this blessing that I have the understanding of before. A young kid would never understand if I was like, hey, you know, I existed in the music before streaming existed, and they're only like a couple years younger than me. So that's it's this weird age drop off, this weird gap where, you know, I'm not even 30 yet. So it's this weird, you know, drop off where I was so able to experience what it's like to really hand out flyers and mixtapes and open up for artists and what that really means, you know, to the art. And then also now, like I said, where, you know, there's guys making 6 figures a month that have never done a show in their life.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. One thing we were talking to a blues guitarist, Todd Sharpville, the other day, and this it sort of rings a bell with what you do as well, which is, I think, blues sometimes and hip hop a lot of the time seems a lot more rooted in personal experience than pop.
Absolutely, I think it's always been the case. I think it's always been the case.
But I've never really thought about it before. But pop is actually just a very vanilla surface thing, if you like.
So check this out. I just had this conversation similar. So, I mean, correct. What you're saying, popular, right? It's always been what's popular. It's never about your personality. It's never about what's going on in your life. It's never about a niche audience or if someone can relate to you. It's always what's popular. And with hip hop, I think this is what I've kind of detected. And it's also a blessing and a curse. So when I first started making music, hip hop was the 4th biggest genre in the world. The first was pop. Second was EDM. The third was country music. So hip hop wasn't even a top 3, you know, as far as grossing thing, even 10, 12 years ago. Right. And then now it's the #1. Hip hop is pop. So hip hop is bigger than every single genre I said worldwide. If you look at, I mean, look at Europe, look at Asia, look at Africa, everything, there's African rap. Everything is rap now. You know what I mean? So it's like, so hip hop has become pop. So to go back to what you said, there's just so much hip hop that is no longer about, you know, your life or your person. It still exists. I'm not going to sit here and be like some old guy who's like, oh, you know, in my day, but there's just so much bullshit out there. And I hope, you know, like I said, it's a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it's amazing to be making more money, more eyes, more attention. On the other hand, it's so saturated that, you know, if you don't release a song a week, you lose fan. No one cares. People don't have an attention span anymore. You know, in your guys' day, you could release 1 studio album a year and 3 singles or 2 singles, and that's it. Now it's like, if you don't drop a song at least a month, people forget about you, and the algorithm pushes you into the dust, and your fans are like, what happened to you? And it's like, I went on a vacation.
Exactly. I was on the toilet. I was on the toilet.
I got married. I did something normal, you know. It's like you can't breathe without your fans' permission anymore.
Does that determine how much you record and release, or do you ignore that and you just stick to your own guns?
So it's once again, it's a little of both. So I have the ability. I don't do the weekly releases, which a lot of artists do. I feel that that's just a played out thing, and you know, it no longer is important what the record sounds like. And I don't do something where, you know, I drop once a year, because it's like, you know, that also is, so I do it in between. I really try to drop a record a month. And an album a year. I haven't dropped an album in 2 years because, similar to what you said, I'm almost discouraged, you know, knowing that it's a singles-based game where it's like, you know, if you throw an album out, you only have 1 song that you're able to submit to the algorithm of your Spotify fans and shit like that. So it's like, if I did a 20-song album, you know, they literally say, submit one of your 20 songs that you want us to remind your fans exist. And it's like, you know, if you have a big audience, obviously at the end of the day, they're going to buy it, they're going to stream it, they're going to go listen to it. But even if you're Drake, even if you're the biggest artist in the world, algorithms are still going to affect you. Even if you have $1 million budget or $1 billion budget, you know, it's still, these are tech things that you know, even if to you were making $10 million off your album, you might only be making 9 now because, you know, you didn't release it properly. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely. That's interesting.
One thing I thought was really interesting was the increase in political content as time has gone on. And particularly the quote from Robert Malone is quite interesting. I must admit, that's a pretty cool thing to have.
Yeah, getting the shout out from Robert Malone.
Yeah, man. Robert's like a good friend, man. You know, it's crazy because I was just one of the first people the first rappers, probably one of the first people to a few years ago to speak on just like the things he was saying. And, you know, he was one of the first people to get removed on Twitter. And this is like one of the most, bro, he's like the sweetest guys, one of the most down to earth, coolest guys ever. Right. And I just before I even knew him or met him or talked to him, I made a post saying like, you know, if you don't know who Robert Malone is, you can't eat at my Thanksgiving Thanksgiving dinner table. And then like within a few days, like Robert Malone's people hit me up and they're like, hey, we want you to do an interview with him and we want you to sit down and kind of talk with him. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And we did like a whole little skit and I sat down, I talked with him for a couple hours. And then after that, we became like super friendly and we hung out many times, been to dinner with him and his wife. And we just like, bro, cool. It's crazy just to hear this guy's perspective, the man who played a massive role, if not the role in mRNA technology, what we talk about, what we see right now with the vaccines, and for somebody of that stature, you know, and that kind of he's a true intellect, right? This man is this is like, you know, you can write me off. I didn't go to college. If you want to be like, I went to college, I went 20 years, you're an idiot. I'd be like, you know what? Maybe you're right. Yeah. But for somebody like him, that just threw me off because I always ask questions, even when I was a young kid. So for them to like, you know, cancel Robert Malone, I was like, okay, let me look into this guy. And then when I met him, it only reaffirmed my stance when he's like such a sweet dude, such a nice guy, such a smart guy. And yeah, man, it was super cool to have every time we went to all these kind of rallies against mandates, you know, it was like just kind of linking up. It's like all my peers were touring with rappers. I was touring with doctors.
Exactly right.
Did you have any sort of misgivings about getting increasingly outspoken? Was that in your head? Did you ever think?
So yeah, so I knew, I knew as soon as I went to my first kind of rally, if you want to call it that. It was in New York City, and they started firing some friends of mine that were working for the city, and I was like, damn. I'm like, if they're going to fire people that work for them, that are like, you know, it's like if you work for private companies and shit, like I wouldn't understand that, but I would understand it from an evil standpoint. I'd be like, okay, we're not making enough money off these people. Like, let's screw them over, whatever. Let's try to put some sanctions on these private, you know, businesses. But then I saw them firing people that literally every day wake up and work for the city. And I was like, wow, this is like the opposite of like when 9/11 happened and everyone came together in New York. And like New York was so vibrant and bright and excited and happy to be American and coming together no matter what. And this was the opposite. I was like, whoa, they're firing like, you know, friends and family of mine that I'm seeing work for the subway stations, or, you know, work for the wiping the buildings or whatever. And I just I'm like, you're going to get COVID wiping a window 70 floors high. And it's like, this shit didn't add up to me. So, so I went to New York City and, you know, I stood up there and I started, you know, talking. It was like maybe 400 or 500 people. And I just started rambling on and on for like 10, 20 minutes about like what I thought. And then I did a couple records and just the energy was crazy. And I remember I saw like, you know, some person, they had a Black Lives Matter shirt on and someone next to them had a Trump hat on, and someone next to them was a Jewish person, and someone next to them was a Muslim person. And I looked around and then I went home and I saw the news and they were like, racist, Trump supporting Republicans go out. And I'm like, whoa. And I was like, this was like even compared to my own shows, my shows are like 80% white kids, like 18 to 24 years old, maybe a couple girls here and there, and like a couple Asian or Black kids like sprinkled in that like, you know, went to college and liked my music or some shit. And but I went to this shit and I was like, even at my own shows, I didn't see like this was the most diverse crowd I've ever seen coming together for a common cause. And then, like I said, I would see Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel or these late night talk show hosts just spitting the same, you know, kind of image back after I witnessed it with my own two eyes, that it was the exact opposite. And I saw that it was just a smear campaign. So then that just kind of excited me even more to keep, you know, feel like I was on the right track and keep doing what I was doing. But to answer your question, as soon as I did that, I was about to sign a deal. I had it was like almost $100,000 deal for one project, and that was the most I had ever seen for something, and or the most I would have ever seen for something. And this is not including like, this was just like, yo, here's your. And it was a great deal. Like at this point, this is only 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. So like my idea of paperwork is right, my legal team is right. So like I had a great deal, and good money, good deal, good time, everything. And So they call me after I show up to this event and they say, hey, you know, you have two options. One, you know, you can delete all your shit and never show up to these things again. And, you know, and we'll continue with the deal and we'll pretend this never happened. Or you can keep doing what you're doing and we're not going to give you this money. We're going to, I was never signed, so they can't drop me, but it was more like, we're just not going to go through this deal. And I didn't even blink, bro. I was just like, okay, bet, like, fuck off, you know, like I was just like, that's fine. Like, you know, it is what it is. And then I started releasing music, like this socio-political revolution type music. And then it just started going crazy. This is within weeks of them saying, we don't want you. And this was the album I was going to give them. I was going to give them this same music because my head was still there. You know, it didn't like just come there overnight. I was already working on this music for a while. So I was about to give them probably some of the best and biggest music of my life, which ended up being, you know, #1 on Billboard and #1 on iTunes. And we sold tens of thousands of copies still sold on iTunes, and it streamed millions, and it's shit that I didn't even do when sales were in. It's like I was doing this because it was like going against the grain. It was like some real Rage Against the Machine shit, not the current one, like some real Rage Against the Machine shit.
Absolutely.
You know, so yeah, to answer your question, I lost. Also on top of that, there was 1 or 2 other like kind of influencer deals that I was working on that either fell through or stopped you know, paying out. So I for a few months I lost probably close to what could have been 6 figures or what was, depending on how you look at it. And but then, like I said, within months, you know, God saw that I was like, I had the right moral compass. I was really leading with honesty and transparency. And like I went into it thinking I was gonna lose money, not that I was going to make money at all by any means. So the fact that I got more than I even was getting before that is a testament of God.
When you were in the studio and you started with maybe your first lyrics to express your feelings about this, was there a point when you were listening back or while you were doing, you were thinking, maybe I shouldn't be doing this? Did you for a second, or did you just crack on?
So from like an audio, from the music standpoint, I never question what I put on my music ever. From a visual standpoint, that's where I start questioning things when it comes to like what you see. And, you know, we actually self-censored ourselves. So like we were blurring the words vaccine at the beginning of putting them out because they literally said, they're like, we're going to, you know, we're just going to like Mark Zuckerberg, all of them, they literally came out and it leaked in certain things. Like if you say vaccine in an incorrect manner that we disagree with, we're going to throw it over here into the gulag. So it's like you know, they did that with other artists. And to me, it wasn't about getting more money or more views, because once again, I didn't have money or views at the time when it came to this type of content, so I didn't care, or I was ignorant to the idea that there was an audience for this. So I blurred it because I wanted this message to get heard. I was willing to play within whatever guidelines YouTube I had, which is what I tend to do at times. I tend to play nice with these tech companies, but I also kind of, you know, do like similar to what Hollywood does now. They have this messaging, subliminal messaging to young kids. I'm reversing it. I'm like, I'm going to do the same shit, but I know that my intentions are good. I know that I'm not trying to get your kid to, you know, wild out at 6 years old. I'm doing the opposite, if that makes sense.
Yes, okay, so we're just going to play a clip from Revolution. So this is, for people that don't know, this is Hi-Rez with Jimmy Levy.
We will not comply with the institutions, take illusion, no, it won't be televised. Welcome to the revolution. The revolution won't be televised. Government been telling lies. If you're not with us, you better step aside. Witnessing a genocide, everything is centralized. The food that we consuming, they spraying it out with pesticides. Easily identify the sheep and the snake, the real and the fake, giving us a reason to pray. I'ma make my own choices, a voice for the voiceless. They trying to destroy us, avoiding the poison. It's all pointless if you don't have a purpose. If you read the verses, you'll know who we versing. Government can tell you what your worth is, look deeper than the surface. They don't even want you researching or asking questions. We all being tested. Shut your mouth and comply, that's the message. Want you depressed on prescriptions that mess with your head, got you stressing, suppressing expression. We will not comply with the institutions, sick illusion. No, it won't be televised. Welcome to the revolution. We will not comply.
Yeah,
that's my favorite chorus by a mile.
Very good track, man.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
No,
and good sound. Sorry, really good sound on the vocals too. Really nice.
It is. Yes.
Thank you. I've been working with my engineer for 13 years since I'm 15. So he's just like, he knows my shit in and out. I've never switched engineers. I'm like blessed to have fun. He's a genius, bro.
Yeah, but good. You know,
absolutely.
Round of applause for him.
How did you and Jimmy hook up? Because if I'm right in thinking, Jimmy was a talent show. He came through.
Yeah, he was on American Idol or I don't remember. He was on one of those. But yeah, so it's kind of just timing, man. It's just like the same concept of what was going on in the world, you know, the last couple of years. And I looked around and there was just no other artist saying anything or speaking up. And all I did was just comment, you know, good for you or whatever. And then you know, turns out he lived like pretty close to me, and we just linked up and made a bunch of music. And yeah, man, it feels like godly for sure, because it was like I didn't know him prior, he didn't know me prior, and even right now it was almost like we crossed paths and now we're back on our own paths again. Like there's no beef or bad blood or nothing like that, but it's like, hey, like we did what we did, and if we cross paths again, cool. It almost feels better that way. It feels like very, it's not like we forced it and tried to make a duo or some shit. We just made a bunch of cool collaborations.
Yeah, because in a way that's quite a big shift for him, isn't it? Obviously American Idol's very corporate, very mainstream, and suddenly he's speaking out. So it's interesting that you guys both found
quite a risk for him.
Right. It's basically this. You know, we were on the same path without even knowing it, and I guess you know that just proves that timing is everything when it comes to that. And
always,
you know, whatever he was doing or going through at the time, or whatever history he had that led him to that point, I must have had some sort of similar history, and we linked up.
Right. One thing I think is really interesting is the way faith and God has suddenly stepped in much more into people's thinking.
Right.
And we've spoken to, there's a guy over here called Calvin Robinson who's quite well known as a priest over here.
Just been ordained.
Who's just been ordained, yeah. And we've written a song called Spiritual War, and when he heard it, he said that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
He doesn't think, in a way, the machinery of it all is beside the point. It's actually to do with the spirituality of it.
100%. Jimmy and I always speak about that. We always we're speaking and saying, you know, we're so used to Russia, Ukraine, we're so used to physical wars, Iraq, Afghanistan, America, Israel, Palestine. We're always used to physical wars and bombs and these things. But it's so new. It's such a new thing. This spiritual warfare for sure.
Which is why it's very difficult to motivate people, because they can't see it.
Yes, yeah.
I think if there was boots coming over the hill and bullets flying through the air,
right,
people would understand. But
you can comprehend it. You know how to navigate it, and you know how to fight back. With this, it's like, you know, this is I feel I'm fighting back. You know what I mean? And certain people, it's like it's everyone. There's these factions, you know, where it's like, you know, these groups of people kind of dissenting, you know, the norm, which is like what I felt I was doing. Robert Malone, all these people, Peter McCullough, and a lot of these doctors and rappers and producers. I feel like we were kind of you know, 10% of a very small group already. And then now if you look into it, you know, then you see people dividing amongst already divided groups. So it's like, you know, you look around, this is what's been going on the last few days. It's like, you know, you saw, especially in America, you saw this movement, not necessarily of Republicans, but of more traditional values of bringing God back, of raising, you know, family, a nuclear family, of teaching your kid to hunt, just certain values that were lost along the way, right? Teaching your kid how to change a tire, things that we became so progressive that we forgot things that were just kind of important at a fundamental level. And we kind of, you know, the last year or two saw that bubbling up, and a lot of people coming together that never would have, Christians, Catholics, extreme radical Christians coming together with, you know, me or a Jew, whatever it is, or somebody that might have been more left leaning. I was mostly like that my whole life. And a lot of people coming together. And then you see over the last week or two, people divided again over Judaism and anti-Semitism and Kanye West and Candace Owens and Yeezy. And it just, to me, it's on one hand, you know, you might have seen my post, but on one hand, it's important to stick up for yourself and your family and your history and your heritage, of course. But on the other hand, there's so many distractions that are sent out there to divide an already fragile group of people that are already kind of on the fritz when it comes to their differences. It's like we're coming together over this one thing. Now let's be reminded of all the things that we hate about each other. You know?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Exactly right.
So within the hip hop community, which obviously we aren't part of, Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
When you started speaking out, were people worried? Were you getting phone calls from other artists saying, "What are you doing, man?" Or, sorry, I can't do that show with you? Or how did that work out?
So actually, it was family that was like, I think he's gone crazy.
Oh,
so
okay.
it was like close family too, and then also like distant family, cousins, and like family friends, where they're like, I think Jesse's gone mad this time. It's like after all the years of doing things, it's like, wait, I wasn't mad when I was pushing corporate food on people, McDonald's. I wasn't mad when I was doing a video with Pornhub. I wasn't mad when I was working with all these corporations and like they were using and abusing me. I wasn't crazy or mad. As soon as I started speaking my mind and talking about God and kind of talking about, bodily autonomy and like individualism, that's when I've gone mad, apparently, But believe it or not, most artists actually, so from an art, like if you're a real artist and you're not what we talked about, kind of this pop puppet, if you were a real artist that felt anything, it didn't matter, kind of your politics, your policies. Almost every artist that I knew on a personal level that knew me, DM me personally or text me and they're like, yo, I'm rocking with everything you're saying, or like, yo, I'm so excited that you're doing this and blah, blah, blah. I'm too scared to post this. I'm too scared to tweet this. My label is going to drop me. My hands are tied, or like most of my fans are like radical, Democrats, and they would never want me to even say anything that's remotely close to maybe that looks like Donald Trump or the right or whatever. Like, I've never been a political guy. I've never been one who was like, I voted 3 different ways in 3 different elections. As far as like, I don't feel politically at home anywhere. I tend to now, like, I think that it's similar to Russell Brand. Have you seen Russell Brand's content? That's who I am. I'm this grassroots hippie hipster sort of guy that I'll go anywhere that I feel there's an imbalance. If they were like, let's get the gays, let's kill them, I'd be go parading with them in a thong out in the streets. You feel what I'm saying? To me, this is not about right or left or Trump or Biden or politics, season, politics, whatever. It's just about what I said kind of with Russell Brand. It's about there's this feeling of this off balance, this imbalance. And I kind of I'm running to wherever I feel like I have to balance out the world at the time.
Yeah. Is that the basis of the track Hope?
So Hope.
It's quite an interesting video. I think.
Thank you.
We've got a clip of that.
So I've been, obviously Judaism is different in a sense of it's not only a religion, but it's a people. I don't want to say it's a race. Essentially, it's an ethnicity. It's a religion. It's very different because. You can see my blood type. You can look back generations and generations, my bone structure, and you'll know where I come from. And if I did one of those 23andMe tests, you'll know that I'm susceptible to certain diseases because of my heritage, because of my ancestors, because of this. So it's different because like, it's not like, oh, I could just become Jewish. People can convert to Judaism, but at the end of the day, it's similar to, if you look at Black people historically, they were getting, I think it was called, Tay-Sachs might have been Jewish. I don't know, whatever. People, they're prone to certain diseases. These people are prone to certain diseases. Every Jewish person I know it sounds stereotypical and funny, but we all actually have nose problems. It's not even just, it's like, oh, but we actually have nose. So my point is there's a rhyme and a reason to all these things based on, where we come from centuries and centuries and centuries. So, I don't want to say I got more Jewish, because a Jew is a Jew, a Christian's a Christian, a Black person's a Black person. It is what it is. You're born into a lot of these things, whether you like it or not. You can try to convert, but ultimately your family and the people around you will always, you'll have this thing inside you. You'll have this bit inside you. And so I just in the last few years, when it was, I'm very competitive. So when it came to government telling me that I can't worship anymore, I'm like, I'm going to go worship 10 times as hard.
Exactly.
I'm competitive. And then I had, and then my grandma passed away a year ago. She was 93. So she lived a long, happy, healthy life. And she was the last person in my family who was keeping traditions when it came to Judaism. So I look around and I'm like, oh shit. Like, so COVID, my grandma just passed. I had a lot of friends that just started almost kind of laughing religion off and laughing God off and just saying it's a joke and it's a scam. So all this shit is coming at me left and right, like bullets flying by me at the same time. And I'm like, okay, God, you win. You know what I mean? So I started just kind of getting closer with my community, and it's been so important and exciting to me because it's more like, it's less about like like my tribe, and more about having a mentor and having somebody to lean on. And when you need a meal, you got a meal. And when just in case what Kanye's doing and what he does all the time, he needs somebody, he needs a mentor. He needs somebody to check on spiritually at all times. He doesn't have that, you know? So it's like, everybody, it doesn't matter, like you said, Catholic, Christian, like you need somebody to check on you and that you need to tap in with, where it's like, before I release a song or a music video, or even if it's not about God, I'll send it to my rabbis, and I'll send it to some people in my community that have been religious their whole life. And I'll be like, you know, and they know my journey. I show up to temple with sandals and a shirt and a tank top, and then I'm next to a guy that's got a big hat, and like, you know, I just show up because it's more to me like free school or free college. I get to learn and I get to study, and I get to learn more about myself and things I could put into my rhymes. And it's just, it's so exciting. And like we've talked about in recent times, just the more things that happen where it's like, fuck the Jews, whatever, when you hear and see more of these things, it just pushes me further and further to it, closer and closer. So it's like, you know, when a church gets shot up, you know, God forbid, these happen all the time, you know, you have one choice. You can either say, wow, religion is terrible, look what it did, or you can say, this is going to bring me closer to God and closer to my community and closer to my people. So you have that choice, you know?
Well, Jesse, what was the thinking behind the Jewish video, the Hope video?
Should we play it?
Let's play it first.
Let's play it chat.
You know I got hope even when it all feels wrong. Headed to the promised land, it's been like way too long. I know he gon' guide me every time I'm lost. Follow his commandments, whatever the cost. I got love for everybody, even if you wish the opposite. Me and God got a covenant, diving and solve the problem. I'm far from a prophet or a sadic, but I'm confident that God got us regardless. We all just a product of them. Skeletons in my closet, I finally get to clean them out. Soul, it was screaming out. God, he was reaching out, was blind, but I'm seeing now. They don't want me speaking out. False idols, weed them out. We need Moshiach now. The whole world.
Very good. Yeah, I like that. I like what I like about that is the complete it doesn't compromise. It doesn't compromise in the least bit. It doesn't pull away. It doesn't, you know. And when I watched it, the first thing I thought was, "My God, that's really upfront. It's really,
thank you.
You know, it's not like a Jewish guy making a video,
right?
It's not. It's much more than that,
right? I appreciate that. So what it was, the main reason I did that song is, for me as a young Jewish kid, we you know, and I don't even want to be careful with my words because I don't care, but when it comes to what Kanye is saying and what these people are saying, the only representation we had was behind the scenes. The only representation we had was producers and directors and writers and agents and lawyers. So and then when it came to actors, all we had was like Adam Sandler, you know. So it's like, which I love Adam Sandler, but my point is like, all of us are going to look up to one actor. Like, we don't have anything else out here, not in, you know, not representing in rap or any of that shit. And then later on things started coming, but you know, when you look around it, nobody really, you know, you have Christian gospel, you know, categories on iTunes, and you have Christian categories with the Grammys. And I looked at myself as I kind of saw myself as a young kid, and I was like, damn, I would really love for a really cool rapper to have represented me as when I was a 12, 13-year-old kid. I wish there was a Jewish rapper who, you know, was not a Jewish rapper, like you just said, that was a rapper that's doing everything, that just happens to be Jewish, that is putting out dope records about God. Because if you look at that song and you're not familiar with religion or Judaism, it just sounds like a cool song to you. You don't know what's going on. You don't know who I am. You don't know what I'm representing. You don't know anything. If you're religious, then you maybe, regardless if you're Christian or Jewish or Catholic, then you probably have an idea of what's going on here. And then if you're a religious Jew, then you definitely know what I'm doing. So it's kind of like this. I was able to kind of cater to a niche audience, as well as my existing audience, as well as God-fearing people, regardless of what religion you are. But my main goal was to really kind of be a voice for the younger version of me that wasn't out there, you know?
Is that melody a traditional Jewish?
Yeah, so it's actually, it's not, so it's a good question. So it's not a traditional Jewish melody, but it actually is the Israeli national anthem. It's called Hatikva. It's the Israeli national anthem. But as far as when Israel was given a state, this is a whole debate now, but as far as when Israel was considered Israel, right, in 1940, whatever, 1947, it was kind of given that right, you know, and people, you know, obviously debate that. But historically, most Jews don't even actually really appreciate or really they don't feel represented by that song because they feel that thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. Okay. We date back the idea of you giving me a state or you giving me a name or a hashtag or a song, you know, it's like just throwing money at something and like, shut up, hey, you know, but, you know, but ultimately my goal, and this is something else I spoke with my rabbi about, my goal was I'm going to take this song that was kind of given to us, you know, in recent times, and I'm gonna backdate it to how I feel it should be spoken about, because I didn't necessarily translate it from Hebrew to English how it directly is translated. I just took the melody and then I said what I wanted to say.
Right. Sure. Okay. Did you get a cease and desist note from the Israeli government?
Yeah, dude. I literally thought about that in my head, and I'm like, wow, that would be something.
That would be something.
That would be something, man. That would be something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But now you did a piece to camera called Dark Truth Speech. I think that's what it's called. Well, that's what it says on my
on your machine.
On my machine, and it's you to camera. And you were talking about the music industry. Do you remember that?
I'm looking it up right now.
But let's play it.
Yeah, tell me. How come when I rapped about this?
Oh, I got that. Anything you need, like pills or weed, I got that.
Labels didn't care. They actually liked it. They encouraged it. Fans didn't really care. A lot of them encouraged it. They liked it. Nobody called me crazy. Nobody called me nuts. Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody checked on me. And how come when I rapped like this?
God over government, lies that they covering, innocent suffering, won't let our freedom just crumble or disappear without a fight in the struggle. They want us so sick and don't want you recovering.
People think I'm nuts. People check on me. And not in a nice way. More of a passive aggressive, this guy's nuts way. Brands are a little bit more reluctant and hesitant to work, and you're more likely to be blacklisted and blackballed from companies and corporations in Hollywood. How is God and freedom more controversial than drugs, sex, partying? Moral of the story for all you upcoming artists, these labels, these distribution companies, and a lot of these fans, they don't give a damn about your health or spirit, beliefs. They only care about lining their pockets and using you to do that.
That's pretty brutal, and it's true.
It's true, but I believe, agree with every word.
Yes.
But did you get much flack? Did you get a lot of negativity?
Not for posting it. I think a lot of people, way more support, because at that time I already don't have much support from within Hollywood or within the industry. So it's like there's no one to lose, and there's no fan, there's no like there's no one to piss off already. I either pissed them off or they weren't around in the first place. Right. But yeah, man, that's something that I recognized early on, where I saw a lot of peers of mine die from overdoses or get murdered. And I looked around and I was like, okay, it was rinse, repeat, the same thing when it came to these labels, where it was like die, vigil, let streams go up 600%, and then they sign somebody else that looks exactly like them and sounds exactly like them. Yeah. And I was just like, wow, and we all just forgot, like outside of the fan base, like the labels, the distribution companies, even some of the friends and like people who worked around them, like they didn't give a shit after they died. And it was like, it just felt so cold and cruel to me. You know, I mean, this dates back further, right? This dates back to the Michael Jacksons, the Princes, like this dates back, very, very far. So
early Hollywood,
right? Yeah, where there was a studio system, it dates back to that.
Right. So this is definitely not an accident. I'm not going to sit here and I love a good conspiracy and I love debating about things, but it makes you question, like, whether people get intentionally killed or they get kind of they kind of make you crazy on purpose in order to kill yourself. And they know exactly what's coming, or they put you in situations where you're going to get killed, so there's just so many, and this is why I have security around me every event I go. This is why I'm I don't want to say sober, but 99% basically sober. I do no hard drugs. I barely smoke weed, maybe once or twice a year. I almost never drink, maybe on a rare occasion. So this is why I'm very careful about the things I consume, even when it comes to food, when it comes to waters, when it comes to music, when it comes to the shit I listen to, when it comes to the people I'm around, because I know how slippery of a slope that is, because I've been there and I've seen it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it is very slippery. I actually went the other way when the band kicked off.
So did I, funny enough.
I just thought, what can I consume? And I went down that route, which is not very smart either. But that's you're right. It's fairly stereotypical.
We've often talked about. I mean, Avicii is one guy that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Which is comes odd because they have an artist or a band or whatever that is making them loads of money,
right?
And then they work them into the ground to the point where they stop making loads of money,
right?
And then moan,
and they moan that the band aren't making the money. But that's
right.
Because when we after our first album, the guy said, we said we haven't got any time to write. And he said, why can't you do it in the taxi when you go to the airport?
Yeah,
it's insane, man. It's insane, and people wonder why. I mean, like you said, like to kind of backtrack what I said, I've been through it. So I didn't just decide when I'm 16, oh, I'm going to be this sober guy. Now that's only came in recent times. When I was younger, I had a problem as far as coping and comprehending what was going on in my life and career and relationships. And I was traveling all the time, and I was never home at a 16, 17-8-year-old kid. And I didn't see my family, and my family didn't understand it. And, you know, I'm around people that I just met. You know how it goes. Like every city, you're around a new person, and you're like, they don't understand you, they don't know you, they don't get it, but they think they do, and then they want to be around you, and they want to soak in your energy, and they want to party with you. And it's just, on one hand, it's fun in the moment, but then, you know, as soon as the party comes down, it's not fun anymore. And you know, and I learned that in only recent times. And you know, I've had some bad experiences in the past when it came to drugs or partying or this and that, maybe, you know, once or twice. And it's just, you know, it kind of got, you know, I kind of just wised up, and I was like, this shit doesn't end well, because I started seeing Mac Miller and Lil Peep and XXX and all these rappers getting shot or overdosing. And I was like, oh shit. Like, you know, you start looking at 10 people dying to the left of you and 10 people dying to the right of you, and you're like, oh shit, this is, you know. So
absolutely.
Do you, when you tour, do you tour with, do you have a mate that you go with all the time? You have a consistent pal?
Yeah, so
that
when I first started, you know, I'm no longer with anybody that I first started with, because, like I said, you know, everyone was having so much fun partying. Nobody was ready. Right. Nobody was ready to, you know, to hunker down and get the business ready. And nobody was being a good tour manager. And even tour managers are doing cocaine, and even tour managers are, you know, so at that point, it's like, you don't have anyone who can who sees the vision of where we need to go and how we need to get there, because an artist might not always see it. Usually they don't. So it's like, you really need somebody to kind of guide you, which thankfully has been my significant other, you know, over the years. And now it's really just my significant other and one security guard, and that's it. And it's like, you know, we'll have a DJ, obviously, but yeah, it's literally security, me and my significant other, and that's it. So it's
having that long relationship that you've got with your significant other is a hugely important thing.
It's always been my moral compass. It's been, like I said, when I was, you know, depressed for years or high for years or whatever, just not understanding what's real and what's fake and who has my best interest. She kind of always was that North Star, where she was like, you know, very harsh, and at times it was like I didn't want to understand or accept or you know, really accept that, okay, this person I have to cut off, this person's taking advantage of me, you know, this person's treating me like this, you know, sonically I probably shouldn't say that, you know. And it's like, it's just a voice that you trust, you know. And it's like, it's somebody to humble you and somebody to smack you in the face every time you start, your ego starts getting out of check.
I think that's really important. And also when you meet somebody who's close to you before it all kicks off,
that's handy.
You know that she's there for you regardless of what's happening in your professional life.
Right. We were together, like, you know, when I was, like I said, we were like, before streaming existed, when I was getting dropped from labels, when I was making, you know, $500 a month, you know, we were together when I had to do features to pay my rent. I had to do a $300 verse, a $600 verse, $1,000 verse to pay my rent. And, you know, that's, you know, so correct. So what you said is, you know, she'd been riding with me before money. So, you know, the fact that a little bit of money's here and then a lot of bit of money, God willing, later. So it's nothing I question. It's, you know, a lot of people are in worse off situations for sure.
No, absolutely. It's a vital thing to have.
It is, This has been really interesting. Thanks, Jesse. Really good.
100%. I have one or two questions for you just off top.
Okay. So, go on.
So the Drake record that just dropped, you guys know this one.
Yes.
I've cleared samples before. Do you guys have to be approved or publishing? Who owns the publishing of that record?
It's with Spirit.
Spirit. I just cleared a record through Spirit.
Okay.
Actually, I did a record where I sampled All Star Smash Mouth. Hey, now you're an All Star. Get your game on. So I sampled that, and I got Wiz Khalifa on it, and it was crazy. It was a crazy pop song where we flipped it. I'll send you guys it. But sorry.
Yeah.
So they cleared it through Spirit. You guys heard it before? Or you heard it after, or what? How did it work?
We got a demo. We proved it. It's they actually on the Drake record. They sampled someone imitating us. They sampled.
I've done that.
Gorgeous George,
Gorgeous
I think his
George,
name. I
yeah,
think his name is. And he did a thing, and he sort of changed it into a minor key, which I really like.
Yeah.
And so that's the sample they used, but they had to come to us for the right.
Of course. It's funny because I've done that many times accidentally, where I sampled the sample, and and then you realize that just a lot more publishing companies have to be involved now. You know, that's funny, man. That's great. Oh, another record. I wanted to. Now that I have you, obviously, I'm going to talk business out loud with you guys. Hold on. I didn't do as much. Hold on. Give me 10 seconds.
Yeah, go
on. What did you guys, first of all, what did you guys think of the Drake record?
I thought it was good.
I thought it was good.
We liked it.
I like him, actually.
Yeah, and I like the video.
Good sense of humor.
Yeah, he seems like, I've never met the, I don't know if you've met him. We've never met him.
No, I never met him.
No, but yeah, really put
okay.
These two people nice.
Yeah, go on.
A song that I heard of yours that I was like, I really want to sample this. I don't know if I will, but I really want to. So is it through Spirit too? Is the You're My Mate?
Oh, that's not through Spirit.
Is that a whole complicated thing? If I even try to?
No, that is us.
That's
okay,
us.
Great, because I really just love the melody, man, and I think it reminds me of some big soccer stadium anthem, you know.
Yeah.
So I think like Americans would love that shit if I made it more American, obviously.
Okay, that's how the song broke. We ended up doing football stadiums,
and also it was a big hit in gay line dancing clubs.
Yes,
I love it. That's amazing, bro. That's amazing.
It was.
So I have one or two more questions for you guys. What? First of all, that's cool. Maybe I'll do something with that, and I'll keep you guys posted on that one.
Okay.
I love sampling records. What have your guys' careers kind of been like the last 2 years? You know, since what's been going on, and do you speak like just in general? I mean, you guys spoke out, and I remember Jimmy actually was the one who told me. He's like, you know, the guys who made I'm Too Sexy. I'm like, yeah, of course. He's like, they're patriots. They're against the they're against the establishment. Blah blah blah. Whatever. And I was like, oh shit. And then I saw you guys were following me, and So how did that come about for you? Were you always kind of against the grain and against the machine, or how'd that go?
Yeah, we've always been against the machine. We same as you, when Sexy broke, it was all independent. The majors came in. We said no. We stayed independent. Yeah, I know that was and I don't know if it's a good idea or not now, but
that's crazy. I imagine. I'm sorry to cut you off. I imagine I would have done the same thing, and I imagine that when it comes to that, man, like you probably still get placements every day. To the placements have to be ridiculous on that song.
They are.
So you guys are. I'm glad you own whatever you own.
Yeah. And so that was interesting. And then we the independents we were with, we left and went totally independent. And then we stopped for a while. Basically, we've always kind of been on the outside, particularly in the UK. We never got embraced by the BPIs, which is the Brit Awards, because you're not part of the. If you're not part of the system,
of course,
then they don't ask you to play. You know, so we've always done that. And then when we spoke out, we didn't know how not to. Because our image in the UK was a bit sort of.
We were fluffy.
Yeah, and we're sort of family. Yeah, people know we're
of course.
Household names they call it over here. And we had a lot of kickback, we had a lot of abuse, but then that shifted, and now we're not the enemy anymore. Right. So that our positions changed quite a lot.
It's sort of a bit of what you were saying earlier, just about the minute somebody says you can't do that.
Oh man.
We just go and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
Yeah.
You're like that little kid, right? It's like, don't do that. Don't touch the fire. I'm touching the fire.
I'm touching the fire. They said, do not go in that door. I'm thinking,
what's
behind that door?
I've got to go in that door.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So brilliant. Thanks so much for joining us. Sorry.
I was going to say, we've done a track, which we're finishing off over the next few weeks. And we'll send it to you.
Yeah, just get your
feedback.
For sure. And if you guys ever want to work, man, I would love to work on something. So
okay, that'd be great.
That'd be super fun. Absolutely. All right, let's keep in touch, brothers.
Absolutely. Thank you once again, Peace. Jesse. Hi-Rez. Thank you so much, man.
Lovely to see you.